Hello there! In this lesson, we are going to learn about how to write a recount. A recount tells someone about an event that has happened. Recounts are true stories. When something happens on the playground and you come and tell the teacher, that's a recount. It really happened and you're telling someone about it. Newspaper articles are also recounts. Here is an example of a recount that I'm going to go through with you today. This is called A Visit to the Park. Last Monday, my whole class went to the park to investigate how much litter there was. When we arrived, we found the pond, fed the ducks, and split up into small groups. Then we went to spy on some litter bugs and counted how many people did and didn't put their litter in the garbage can. We were interested to see what types of litter people dropped. By lunchtime, we'd recorded 10 litter offenses. 1 dropped banana skin, 2 empty bags of chips, 3 Coke cans, and 4 cigarette butts. Finally, we put on gloves, collected the litter, and put it in the bin. When we returned to school, we wrote a letter to the council explaining what we'd found and asking them to set up a park patrol to catch litter bugs in the act. So, this was an example of a recount. Now, why do you think this recount was written? Who was the audience? Let's think about that for a minute. Who was the audience? I think the audience could have been the people who were interested in knowing what was happening in terms of littering at their local park. So when we are writing about a recount, we are going to first want to talk about what is the article about? And usually this information is in the title. The title gives us a little clue on what the article is going to be about. We also want to know in a recount who is involved, where did they go, when did they go, why did they go, and things like that. Here's an example of a recount about traveling to Mexico. The last vacation I took was a visit to my family in Mexico. We had so much fun. I got on the plane and immediately fell asleep until lunchtime. I woke up to a sandwich on the tray in front of me, which I gobbled down right away. Then I watched one of my favorite movies on my iPad to pass the time. When we landed, we took a taxi to my cousin's house where we had a yummy enchilada dinner. I went to sleep early because I was so tired. The next morning, I jumped out of bed, excited about the day. I went with my cousins to the beach where we swam, made sandcastles, and had a picnic lunch. It was the best vacation ever. So you see in this recount, I'm telling a story about a time when I went to Mexico. Well, this wasn't really actually a story that really happened to me, but I just made up a story for this particular lesson. But let's pretend it was me and I was a little kid. And I am writing a recount about a trip I took to Mexico. And I am sharing what happened first, and then what happened, and then what happened, and then what happened towards the end. And I'm sharing it in chronological order, which means in order from where it happened, and I'm not skipping around. So what tense was this recount written in? Was it written in the past tense, the present tense, or the future tense? You're right, it was written in the past tense, Whenever we're recounting what happened, it's always written in the past tense because we can't recount what happens in the future because we don't know what events are going to happen and in what order. So recounts are always written in the past tense. So it gets very boring for your readers if you write and then when you are writing a recount. So you'll want to vary your words so that you can say different kinds of things. Next, this happened. However, this happened. Finally, this happened. So you're going to want to change your words and not just say and then, and then, and then. Here is an example of some ways to start a recount if you are talking about your day. When I woke up, during lunch, after breakfast, as the sun was rising, while my parents cooked dinner, before bedtime, at about 10 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of the afternoon. So these are different ways that you can start a sentence when you are doing a recount so that you're not saying, and then this happened, and then this happened. But if you notice, these are not in order. So let's put them in order right now. Looking through these phrases, what do you think would come first? As the sun was rising, because we're thinking about the beginning of our day and what is the very first thing that's happened? The sun is generally rising. Maybe you're such an early riser that you eat breakfast before the sun was rising, and then you might have after breakfast be first, but most people eat breakfast after the sun is up. So I'm going to order this in a logical sequence that makes sense to me, but it could be a little bit different for you. Let's see what's next. When I woke up. So as the sun was rising, then I woke up. After breakfast comes next. What would I put after breakfast? At about 10 o'clock in the morning, because most of us eat breakfast in the morning at 7 in the morning, 8, maybe 9. So if you have a late breakfast though, you might have 10 o'clock in the morning before you have after breakfast. During lunch, in the middle of the afternoon, while my parents cooked dinner, before bedtime. We know pretty much that it's easy to know that we are going to put as the sun was rising at the beginning, because that's the beginning of the day, and before bedtime is the end of the day. Now it's your turn to write a recount of a true story in your life. So you are going to have an opportunity to share a sequence of events in your follow-up work. It could be something that happened on Saturday. It could be something that happened yesterday. So you're going to be sharing a little bit about what happened from moment to moment in a particular time or day in your life. We have a lot more lessons at Guidepost with activities that you can do at home or at school. One of my favorites is in the video description below.